Good morning, it's Fabio and welcome back. Today we're looking at euro dollar and the other major dollar pairs, but before I dive into the dollar, we need to discuss the pound because the pound has taken an absolute massive beating, guys. If we look here at GU, we can see a massive aggressive sell-off in towards the downside, which was in line with the overall analysis that we had yesterday. But what is the reason for this sudden drop-off across the board on all of these pound pairs? Because as we can see here, GBPUSD has been selling off, GBPCAD has been selling off, GBPAUD has been selling off. Now, the main reason for this is the political, but also definitely the financial uncertainty that is now arising within the United Kingdom. If you look here at the 3-month time frame, you can clearly see on this chart that we are pumping like crypto in towards all-time highs. Now, what this chart is the GBP 30-year yields, guys. So what is a yield? A yield is pretty much a return that you get on government debt. Okay, so let's just call it the interest that you receive on government debt. So what you can see here is that the interest that you're receiving on government debt keeps on rising higher and higher. Now, the higher it goes, a yield of a government debt or of government bonds, the lower the bond prices, because there's an inverse relationship between bonds on one side and yields on the other. Now, why is this? Why do bond prices go down, yields go up? It is because you want a higher return on your bond because nobody really wants to hold them. So let's say bond prices go from, let's say, $100 all the way down to $20, then the yield is going to be extremely high because the government is going to pay a lot more interest because they have to issue that government debt somehow, right? So they're just going to pay people, simply said, more money for it or for buying that government debt. Now, with bonds going into such high levels in such a short amount of time, as opposed to how long it took to go in towards the downside, this is causing a lot of financial instability within the United Kingdom, and there is a lot more at play. I could make an entire video about this, but this is really what is causing the pound now to sell off very aggressively. But we're going to dive into GBPUSD in a second. Let's focus first of all here on Euro. So EURUSD in itself yesterday gave us another bearish daily candle close. There is potential again for this to head down lower, but at the same time, guys, we have not yet broken out of the range. Look where we're currently trading at. We're currently trading at the 0.25% fib level at this point in time. Now, overall, remember, guys, we were looking for shorts in towards the downside. I should have just sold this thing because, again, the 0.75% level and premium pricing is just, again, acting as resistance to push the market in towards the downside. Myself, I was looking for a liquidation of the high to then look for that short position due to the fact that the daily candle, right, so this bearish daily candle over here, I was looking to liquidate that overall high to then look for the short, which I've been discussing for quite some time, but sadly we just didn't come up that high. But what did happen is that we did break the overall 4-hour order flow, right? So push up, push down, push up, push down, push up, push down, push up, and then boom, push in towards the downside, breaking the overall order flow. So this buy before the sell is then in control. We tap in and we sell back in towards the downside. So for Euro, obviously, looking at this chart, you could say there is more downside potential, but at the same time, we're still just resting here at the 0.25% fib, and we could just bounce back up, liquidate this high, and then, for example, sell off, or, for example, even liquidate this high, and then, for example, sell off. So for myself, there is still not a lot of, there's still a lot of uncertainty here on EURUSD, looking at that 4-hour chart. So what I'm personally just simply said waiting for is at the moment for Euro to give us a little bit more momentum in towards the downside. I want to see a strong push. I want to see this here be a strong area of supply, and then I'll be able to risk some percentage on taking a short there on Euro, which would then be in line with the overall dollar analysis that I have. Okay, so let's see if Euro can finally gain some more momentum and start pushing in towards the downside. But in my opinion, there are some better opportunities than EURUSD than where we are currently at here on the 4-hour time frame, still stuck essentially within a range. So going into the dollar index itself has obviously reached the top of the range. Now, yesterday, what I discussed was that obviously, or sorry for saying obviously so much, guys, but with us being in the lower bound of the range, right? So over here, we want to see another push in towards the upside. So here, the over 4-hour order flow shifted in towards the highs after we broke this 4-hour fractal high. As I mentioned yesterday, after that point, I was kind of like looking for the next drive up to take out these descending highs. Well, it went a lot faster than expected. And now we're here at this descending trend line. Now, we're giving, or price gave us that third reaction. And again, this is what we often see, a bearish candlestick on the third trendline touch, stop loss above the high. Now those stops have been hit. That's why you're currently seeing the dollar index kind of like push down on the lower time frame at the moment. Still, overall, I'm looking for a stronger drive in towards the top of the range, 98.838 to get hit next, and then potentially also 99.197. That would mean that your USD still has potential to drive down lower. But yeah, that's what I'm currently looking for the dollar. But overall, guys, we just need to break out of this range. That's ultimately the main focus. So I want to see us break out and then give more momentum to trade towards the overall NFP high here, which was formed on Friday, the 1st of August. Now, keep in mind, this Friday, there is going to be NFP. So I think we will finally potentially break out of this range on Friday, and then we'll have some good potential opportunities to start trading the dollar again on a more frequent basis. But at the moment, obviously, we're trading at the 75% level here on the chart, and that could just come like reject us and make us push down lower. So let's just wait. To be honest, you don't really want to get into dollar buys at this point in time. The moment to get into dollar buys being EURUSD sells, AUDUSD sells was over here. Now, if you get in over here, this is just extremely risky. You just liquidate the third trend line touch, so we could just sell off back in towards the downside, liquidate this low, and then, for example, push up with NFP back in towards the highs. So I personally wouldn't buy the dollar at this specific level, but overall on the higher time frame, on the higher time frame, even on the daily, we're still very consolidative, but the overall market structure obviously is still bullish. So it makes sense to look for longs, but just keep in mind that there is still potential for more manipulation. And if you have a tighter stop loss, then this is not an ideal area to buy the dollar, meaning not an ideal area to sell EURUSD, GBPUSD, or AUDUSD. Now, going into GBPUSD, because obviously we've talked a lot about how the pound has been selling off, we can clearly see that the overall analysis that I did yesterday made a lot of sense. First of all, from a daily perspective, we are still bearish, right? So we get the overall impulse in towards the downside, we get the overall retracement back up, liquidating this bump in the road, and then on the 1 hour time frame, being the lower time frame analysis, we obviously had a market structure shift here in towards the downside, where we then liquidate again the bump in the road over here, and then get the change of character for the sells towards the lows. Now, to be honest, I know a lot of you did take it, so congratulations if you were in GBPUSD sells, but for me it was just slightly too aggressive. Maybe I should have had more bulls. And I should have just sold it on the fractal low break. To be honest, I could have with a stop loss a little bit wider. I would have potentially placed it over here. Then still you can see the risk to reward was definitely there back in towards the low for 1 to 2 risk to reward. So yeah, I mean, congratulations if you took the setup. I didn't take it myself, but I'll definitely journal this one as a missed trade, as I should have just put my balls on the table and taken it. But it is what it is. For now, let's see what happens next. Overall, this is a very manipulative region to get involved. Also, what I talked about with the dollar, I would love to see this drop a lot more lower. I do think we're going to soon move back down towards that NFP low. But for now, this is not let's say a candlestick to get involved with. We would need to see a break below here, and then I'll get involved with the order flow, look for some manipulation, and start trading towards that low. So what do I mean with manipulation? Well, for example, here on the 1 hour time frame, what you want to see is, for example, this high get taken out, and then, for example, a change of character again, and then you can look for those sells, because you could say this is like a range now where we liquidate the range low, and then, for example, we push back up towards the range high, and then when price is trading over here, for example, the dollar will be back at, let's say, a lower level, where we can then start selling again GBPUSD and start buying the dollar again. Because, for example, if we liquidate that high, then maybe the dollar will, for example, be at the 25% level. Now, obviously, I cannot look into the future. Maybe this thing just sells off in towards the downside like a madman. But then what will we do? Then we just get in with the overall momentum. We just wait for this to happen, and then we just liquidate something, and then we get involved again in towards the downside. And we'll just look for new liquidation somewhere in the road, a little bit lower, let me put it that way, because we have to kind of like still see how much momentum there is going to be on this thing. But yeah, I would love to still get involved with GBPUSD, as I do think and see there to be lower prices in the near future, especially now with what is going on. But it will also obviously depend on what happens with NFP. Going into AUDUSD, we can see that AUDUSD has pushed down a lot lower yesterday after the 4 hour fractal break from this strong area of supply. I highlighted this in yesterday's live session on YouTube, that this was a very strong area of supply due to it liquidating this previous high, and it's very similar to this previous area of supply. Also, we had liquidity underneath the supply zone itself, And then obviously this is kind of like the final boss supply that you want to sell from, and this is then the 4-hour change of character that you can take the sell on. And then yeah, just missed out on a 1 to 2 risk to reward here, but yeah, I would be looking for this to continue its overall leg in towards the downside. So let's monitor this and see if there's any new potential selling opportunities on AUDUSD that are going to come. I would favor a more downside in line with GBPUSD, but it will obviously depend also on, again, what the dollar index does this Friday with NFP, which is ultimately to a certain extent guesswork. So what you kind of want to be doing is be getting in over here with, let's say, the stop loss here, and then already be in the position when the market is trading here, and then NFP will either drop us all the way to the bottom of the C, or it will drop us towards the stop loss. But at least your trade is pushed by NFP, and you don't, for example, because you're already going to be in that trade, right? So all you now need to do is manage. But instead of getting in now, like the market could just consolidate here before NFP, and then you're literally on your entry, and then there's no, let's say, method to actually manage the position. So that's why I'm not a big favor of getting in now. Like if you got in yesterday or at the beginning of the week, then okay, great. But getting in AUDUSD now or in these dollar pairs now is not kind of like ideal in my personal experience. Now, NZDUSD obviously sold off as well from our supply zone that we had here on the 4-hour time frame. This is also in line with what we were expecting. So yeah, nice to see this sell off. And I'll be looking for this to continue its overall leg down, obviously dependent on what NFP does. Then going into USD Swiss, USD CAD, USD Yen and Gold. So USD Swiss is back inside supply. You could look for another push in towards the downside soon, but we would need to see obviously some bearish confirmation here happening. This is a nice supply zone because it liquidated this previous high. So let's see here, 4-hour change of character high, 4-hour change of character low. Let's see if we get this, and then you could look for another sell in towards the downside. USDJPY pushed up a lot higher, still missed out on liquidating the overall range low. Would have preferred that, but the yen basket just hasn't been cooperating, if I'm very honest. If we look here at the yen basket, you can see that we took out a major low. Also on the daily time frame, we took out that low, but no real bullish confirmation yet. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, what you would now need is maybe another swipe of this low here, and then this, for example, to be the change of character high, and then you could look for a long. But otherwise, I definitely wouldn't get involved with any yen longs, meaning no USDJPY shorts at the moment, even though it, for example, liquidates something. But maybe if the change of character comes, then we could look for another short in towards the downside, because to be honest, you are at the top of the overall range that we have here for UJ. Then USDCAD, I know a lot of you are invested in that as well. USDCAD overall has been pushing up higher. I was looking for the overall low here to get swept before looking for a long position. So yeah, I mean, congrats if you're in this. To be honest, not the clearest of setups for myself. But yeah, I mean, nice that it's trickling up higher. This is obviously now the next major area of supply. So let's see what happens. It should take out this high now, and then, for example, manipulate a bit, and then either it will drop back towards that liquidity low, or once this supply zone breaks, then there'll be a lot more upside for it. Then we have, of course, last of all, gold. Gold in an all-time high. Again, didn't sadly manipulate this overall low that I was looking for to then look for potential long back in towards the highs. But obviously the early sellers who got in on this kind of like candlestick formation, they've now been liquidated here. So at some point in time, we're going to nuke down. Maybe with NFP, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some massive nuke event. I would personally stay out of gold with NFP and just look this to play out, because otherwise, yeah, you'll definitely just get your hands burnt. But preferably, with NFP, we would see a big drop, and then one of these liquidation lows there, see price manipulate, give us some kind of like change of character, and then we can look for some longs again. And then just want to pretty much see this on either one of the liquidity lows that we have here on our chart to then look for some further long positions. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Wish you all a fantastic trading day. Speak soon. Any questions, make sure to join Discord. I'm always there to help. Thanks.